We are looking at one political place of power. That's City Hall, of course. It's 7:14. You're watching Breakfast Television, but we are going to be talking about what happened on the island in Victoria, in the provincial capital, the legislative spending scandal. I'm joined by Alex Rivard from the Political Science Department out at U.B.C. Alex, let's start off by just giving everyone the Coles Notes version of what happened here November 20th until now and what came out in this report.
Okay, so basically what happened, the Speaker of the House, Plekis, is concerned and alarm bells are ringing with what he thinks is improper spending from the Sergeant-at-Arms and the clerk. From here, he starts his own kind of internal investigation, which is handed off to the RCMP. The Sergeant-at-Arms and the clerk are suspended with pay. Later on, both men, I should add, refute the claims. This leads to the second report by the Speaker, which details even more spending. Chief Justice Beverly McLaughlin is retained by the House leaders of all the parties, and she begins her own independent investigation. Okay,
so then her results came out yesterday.
Yes.
And what did she find?
So she was able to substantiate some of what Plekis's report said. She doesn't have any legal authority. It was really like a fact-finding mission.
Correct.
So in this, she found that there were aspects of misconduct from the clerk, James, but the Sergeant-at-Arms, Lenz, basically there's no misconduct found yet.
So nothing with Lenz, although the investigation continues, an RCMP investigation. Craig James retired, basically forced retirement yesterday, and he gave a statement regarding that as well.
Yes, so he retired yesterday, coinciding with the release of the report. Although he still maintains he didn't really do anything wrong, the report basically says yes and no.
Yeah, but some of the things that she found in the report, $2,000 in suits, no good.
Yes.
Luggage over $2,000 that he purchased, not acceptable. Whiskey cakes.
Whiskey cakes,
some
yes,
of this
exactly.
stuff is salacious.
Yeah, absolutely.
$5,000 in Apple stuff, Bose noise-canceling headphones, and, of course, the wood splitter.
Of course, wood splitter. But what's interesting about the last two things you mentioned are the electronics. She actually found there was no misconduct there.
With the electronics. He needed the Bose headphones?
Yeah, and apparently $370 in help to fix a battery in his mouse. And for the wood splitter, she said there was technically no misconduct in purchasing the wood splitter.
Correct.
But he probably shouldn't have stored it at his house.
He shouldn't have taken it home. He shouldn't have been using it. He also took a bunch of booze from the legislative grounds.
$8,000 worth.
$8,000 worth of booze from the legislative grounds. Okay, what happens next? Where do we go with this thing?
Well, ultimately, any type of punishment isn't up to McLaughlin. It has to go through the RCMP or I guess through the House, which is why we're still waiting if anything more is going to come out of this from Lenz.
Okay, now McLaughlin also pointed the finger at Plekis. These gentlemen report to her. Both Lenz and James report, or should I say report to him. What did she say about how Plekis handled this thing?
So interestingly, at the very beginning of the report, she kind of says Plekis conducted this with more of like he was trying to get a criminal investigation going instead of an administrative investigation. So yeah, Plekis did sign off on this, but a lot of the stuff that he signed off to, he kind of said, I was new in this position. They told me it was vetted. They told me it was okay, and I didn't really know.
Okay, now some of the big ticket items that aren't being covered as extensively by James are some of the things that he actually had signed off on by Plekis. Tell us about that.
So McLaughlin was actually really harsh on this. She identified 3 benefit packages that James, she said that he directed himself. There were resignation benefits, a retirement benefit, and also a possible death benefit. Each of these were for well over, we're in the high 6 figures.
Yeah, the death benefit was $900,000.
Exactly. So if he was working past the age of 65 and died, his family would be owed $900,000, which wouldn't have come from an insurance premium, but would have come from the legislature's budget.
Sure, so paid for by all of us.
Exactly. So McLaughlin, I think, rightly raised questions about that and kind of said, he absolutely broke misconduct, or there's misconduct absolutely in this.
Now, with his retirement and the settlement, are we on the hook for any of these amounts?
It's my understanding that the settlement is a non-financial settlement. I'm not entirely sure what that means. But with his retirement, look, he's been a public servant since, I think, 1981, so he does get to retire with his pension.
By government standards, this thing seems like relatively efficiently to this point.
To this point, yeah, absolutely. It seemed like there was coordination among all the House leaders. All the parties were involved in this, and I think it helped so that this wasn't like a politically branded scandal, right? There's no political party that you can really point a figure to here.
Great point. Well, thanks so much for coming in and shining some light on this. Great stuff.
My pleasure.
Now let's check in with Mary and find out what's happening with your news.